Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 87 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? If you are new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, often comedians and other artists, about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, who influenced them or inspired them or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com, and the Instagram handle is @peoplewelovepodcast, and I'm on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, if you want to follow me. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And yes, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. Those are helpful. So, today's guest is comedian Renee Gauthier. Born and raised in Chicago to a large, fun family, she was always into dancing. That said, comedy was always a part of her life too, as has been her mouthiness, as she describes. Renee has worked with so many talented people in entertainment, but she hasn't forgot how her father, George, who unfortunately passed when she was 10, had such a great influence on her sense of humor. They'd watch stand-up together and they'd watch SNL together. And Renee's father was truly a charismatic, special man. Let's just get started. Here's Renee Gauthier. So it's good to see you today, Renee Gauthier. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom here.
Thank you.
Oh, how are you holding up during this super fun 2020? I ask everyone.
I mean, I'm weirdly thriving. I built a deck in my backyard. I have been fortunate enough to be writing on shows. So I've been okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Some people are going maybe in another direction, but other people are building decks and coming up with new recipes and getting in shape or
I'm not
writing.
getting in shape. My shape has gone to a different shape, but I'm good.
You're funny. Well, we can get into it, and you can tell me about your life. And I kind of ask people what their even like early or earliest memories are, anything that jumps out at them, even from like younger than like 5 years old. Usually they're not good for some reason, but
Mine's great.
Oh, there you go. Sometimes they are. What do you got?
I just remember my sister being born. Like, she's 2 days before my birthday and 3 years younger than me. I distinctly remember, I was 3, walking my mom back and forth in the middle of the night, fully pregnant, telling her she was going to be okay, and her telling me to go to bed. Like, go to bed. She didn't know she was in labor, and she gave my birth to my sister in the bathroom.
Whoa, by herself?
Yeah, with my dad, and they called the paramedics, but I remember distinctly her coming out in like this pea green colored sheet that they had like pulled to wrap her in because it was also emergent. And I was like, whoo, she looks real wrinkly.
Wow. That's quite something. 3 years old you were?
Yeah. Very, very distinct memory. My mom is like, yes, that did happen. And I was like, yeah. I remember.
Wow, that's quite something.
Thunder. Yeah.
Is that some of the, I was going to ask some of the sibling politics of you know, the stealing the thunder with the crazy, not crazy, whatever, the unique birth, and then the birthday being close by. How, you know, we can get into how that affected.
Yeah.
Was that an issue? Was that cool?
You know, I was also born in the bathroom on accident.
Wow.
So my two
Should I be interviewing
brothers,
your mom? Should I be interviewing your mom? Should I be getting...
Anetta's much cooler than me.
That's going to be my next episode.
It's Renee's mom, Anetta Gauthier. My mom, I have 2 older brothers who were both born in a hospital, real boring. And then I was born on actual Labor Day. My mom went to the hospital with...
puns.
My mom, I think that's pretty great. My mom went to the hospital with what she thought were contractions. They sent her home. She took a shower and her water broke and she caught me between her legs.
Wow.
So the bathroom birth had been done, right? And so my sister shows up with stealing like my bathroom birth, right? Because she has a cord wrapped around her neck. It's like...
The girls come suddenly. Is that what it is?
I guess.
When you guys are ready, you're ready.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had a younger sister and 2 older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. And what about, you know, what kind of kid were you when you were like elementary school age?
I really wanted to be liked very hard. My brother and I were in the same grade because we're Irish twins, and he was held back a year. So from first grade on, my brother and I were in the same grade, and he was very popular, and I was very not very popular. Like I
Because
still
he had the
rolled.
experience. Because he had the experience
You're right.
he had the age. When you're young, the age thing makes a big difference. He was like, "Oh, I know how to handle these first whatever grade you're in." So he's
You're
being
right.
1 year ahead. But what were
Yeah,
you
you're
saying?
right.
What were
Oh no,
you
I
about?
was just saying that, like, and I was always like trying to be liked, and he was just effortlessly liked.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
So it is annoying. I was
Yeah.
overachieving, trying to show off constantly.
Even when you're working to not care about that stuff and in an attempt to be liked, you're still sort of trying. What that I mean,
Yeah.
you can't it's a weird thing
Yeah.
trying to be cool in school.
Yes. And I was definitely not cool, but I was cooler than I thought. When the high school reunion rolled around, everyone's like, "You were so fun." And I was like, "Really? I thought you hated me." So,
Life is weird like that.
isn't
But
it? Yeah.
what were you into when you were like in elementary school, other than trying to
Um,
be liked?
I was into dancing quite a bit. I used to be a dancer. Um, I actually was like a hip hop dancer as a career for a little bit. So I was always about performance. So I was into dancing, but I also liked fighting boys. And I really fancied myself a tomboy who also could teach you a full music video in the playground. So I was an interesting all around. I played basketball.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But you like dancing the most.
Yeah, I would teach people dance routines. I learned music video dance routines, but I also really wanted people to think I was like tough,
Yeah.
you know.
Did they?
I think they thought I was mouthy,
Yeah.
and I remember getting my front tooth punched out by a kid named Horatio
How
on
old were
top of a
you?
snow mountain. I think I was 8 or 9.
And how old was he? The same age?
Yeah.
I guess that's more excusable.
Well, Horatio and Jose were twins. We
But
were on top of
they
the
were in their
snow.
40s. That would
They
change
were
the story.
exactly. They were 36-year-old twins,
Yeah, they
and
punched a 9-year-old. That's like the
I
worst
call
thing.
yeah, I called them both punks, and they whacked me in the fucking mouth. So
Yeah. Where did this mouthiness come from?
I'm assuming my dad. I don't know. Just a real sass.
It's a big
Just like
yeah, it's kind of a big family you came from. So is it like it's a self-defense almost that you have to
yeah,
speak your voice, otherwise you're not going to be heard? Is that a thing?
yeah. I think so. I grew up in it with a very Italian family. My mom's the oldest of five, so even my aunts and uncles were very young when I was born. So they almost feel like additional siblings, even though they're very much my aunts and uncles. But so it's just a big family, always together. And, everyone's so sarcastic and joking with each other. I just kind of found it and worked it. So, yeah.
And that's kind of who you were, I'm guessing, even through middle school and high school, just as
Yep.
you grew up.
Yep. Yeah. Mouthy.
Mouthy. I mean, what did you get into comedy? Did you get into watching SNL? What kind of cultural things were you into as you grew up?
So my dad and I watched SNL a lot when I was a kid. He was a big comedy guy. Like, he loved it. And we would watch old stand-up tapes, like Dana Carvey's Showtime thing, and like we'd watch old comic reliefs, and he just really loved comedy, and he was a big fan of Eddie Murphy, and we would just do that a lot. I would watch SNL a lot. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a choreographer. I was very much into Paula Abdul, Tina Landon, who choreographed Janet Jackson stuff, like in the All For You stage. I was a dancer, but I was always using comedy as a way into everything. So even in high school, I wanted to be the lead in musicals, but they always gave me the comedic role no matter what. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm the lead. They're like, you're not though.
That's funny.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I've always lived my life, wanting to be the sidekick.
Did your was your dad watching all this comedy and the comedy specials and SNL? Was that just sort of his thing, and the family just kind of like would watch it sometimes around him, or was that like something that you guys, just you and him, did together? Was it just all kind of all the above?
Kind of all the above. And my brothers are also very into comedy. Like our whole life, we watched movies and SNL and anything that's comedic. I mean, we still quote everything, like my brothers and my sister and I, like, we're very pop culture
Yeah.
driven, as we were raised that way. And so my dad really led the charge in, like, Bill Murray being great and Steve Martin, and just looking at these people from an adult man's eyes as a kid, watching old stuff, new stuff, watching the new SNLs as a kid with the Sweeney sisters. And like, just really, it was always something that I think was like healing, was the laughter of it all.
You got a good comedy education, it sounds like.
I did. I really did. Yeah. We used to sneak and watch Eddie Murphy Raw a lot. And I never got any of those jokes. I was like,
but but instinctually, they're funny, and he's still being funny on other levels, even if you don't understand everything he's saying. And as you grow up and understand more and more, it's funnier on a even, deeper, different level.
Yeah. It's like John Hughes movies, right? Like you watch them when you're a kid because even though they're not new, they hold some kind of like cultural teen vibe, but the jokes you don't get until you're an adult. Like you don't get half of John Hughes films jokes or the intention until you're an adult and you go, holy shit, like this is kind of deep, but yeah.
Are any of your siblings performers or comedians, or is anyone else in entertainment?
My brother, John Paul, who we were in class together. He is a writer and he's very funny. He's not a comic, but he does write, like movies, and he's very funny. My younger sister is an actress. We moved to LA together. She recently had a child and moved back to Chicago. And then my oldest brother is an architect, and he's very funny, but he's also very he's just like a gifted artist and very so we all are creative in very different ways.
Cool. That's cool. And does that come from your parents? Did you say your parents were creative people, or just appreciate comedy and the arts kind of people?
So my father died when I was 10. And my mom never remarried, but I will say this, that my dad was always an actor. Like he was always, I remember him doing like local plays, but also like being the life of the party, always telling jokes, and everyone loved being around him, wow. And, he just he left a lot of people behind that just thought he was so funny. And just watching him work a room, I would say my brother John Paul and I are very similar to him, which is we have like a congeniality about us, for lack of a better word. That
I could see it.
Yeah, I like to make people feel comfortable, and I like making people laugh. So, you're in the right profession. You're doing the right things. That's cool. So, I mean, what about like in high school? I'm guessing you're dancing. You love comedy, but you're not doing it or anything yet. Did you have thoughts about what you might do, like after high school, going to college? What are you going to major in? Like going to do something for sure.
Like
I wanted to be on SNL ever since I saw the first sketch watching it with my dad. I always knew that I wanted to be funny, but I also was torn because I wanted to be like a choreographer. The truth is that my calling really leaned into comedy. Like what I was really good at was my timing, and that showcased itself in high school and whatever I had to do on a stage. But I went to Columbia College in Chicago, and I went for dancing, acting, singing, with a minor in childhood education.
Okay.
And then I quit and became a dancer for bar and bat mitzvahs.
Tell me more about the college experience, and was it the dual major you said?
Yeah. So Columbia College is not Columbia University in New York, and a lot of people should know that difference. Columbia College lets everyone in. It's an private art school. And honestly, I did do a dual major. They have you start your major right away, because usually it's based in an art. But I just remember taking ballet and hating it, taking tap, being very good, taking regular like hip hop classes, being good, but hating ballet, not being great at ballet, and also not really fitting in because hip hop was a little bit frowned upon as an art form at the time. It
Yeah.
seemed that way. Like it wasn't, if you were going to be a dancer at an art school, you were going to be a dancer, not hip hop is like, whatever they fucking thought it was. But I
Yeah.
still kept doing that. I was on the Oprah Winfrey show. My hip hop dance teacher picked me to go with him to the Oprah
Wow.
show for this dance episode. So that was great. And like, honestly, college was pretty basic. I sang in a band. That's about it. And then I quit. Like, honestly, I quit. I did go back for one more year. And then I just quit and I became a full-time like bar mitzvah dancer.
Okay. Did you graduate?
No,
How many credits are you away from graduating?
2 full years of them.
Oh, so so you're not if you were like one credit away, I'd be like, oh, just why not?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. But no, it's like a full thing. But I also started Second City in Chicago during that time. So I was still working on comedy, doing improv. I got a scholarship to go there in the beginning. Um,
Wow.
you audition for the main guy who also helped start IO, Improv Olympic, which was the competing improv house in Chicago. And I did Second City. I loved Second City. I fell in love with doing improv and sketch. And then I started infusing dance into my comedic sketches. And that kind of was that was my sweet spot,
I mean, yeah, I feel like you kind of explained it already, but was there anything specific that led you into the direction of Second City? I mean, just based on you loving comedy and other people saying, "Oh, and casting you in the comedic roles," like so it seemed like
Yeah.
a natural thing for you to get into. But was there an event or something that pushed you in that direction more so than I guess the dance, even at that point, that sort of prioritized
I
comedy
think that, yeah,
performing?
I think that I thought I was dancing professionally in a lot of ways because I still like did some backup dancing for like artists, known and unknown, some way unknown. But I would do that, and I was dancing at bar mitzvahs, and I had a whole like community of like breakers and hip hop dancers, and I felt like I was very fulfilled there. And so when I was 17, I went to Second City. It wasn't quite the school it is now that it was at the time. They were just offering not private lessons, but very few, and you had to audition to get in. So I went, my mom got me in, and I went to audition, and I made it, and that's where I got the scholarship. I never went back. And then 2 years later, I was like, I should go to Second City again. So like I did it when it made sense. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it happened the way it was supposed to, obviously. But I just honestly, I think there was a part of me that my dad was such a huge part of comedy that I just kind of pushed it somewhere else for a minute, but it was still always naturally coming out.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
could
so
see
I
that.
just, yeah. So then I was like, you know what? Why aren't I doing this? And then I never anticipated being a comic, like a stand up. I just assumed I would do improv sketch, get an audition for SNL, and move on. Like
Oh,
that's
of
how I
course.
felt. Yeah.
It's all planned in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our
Yeah.
heads, we
Yeah.
plan it out.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your Second City experience.
I loved Second City. I've met some of my best friends there. Second City is one of the best improv houses. I would say Chicago and Canada rival each other as the best ones. Um, I don't think California is as good, and I'll say it right here. But because they hybrid, it's so nerdy to even tell you why. But like
No, I'm
they
interested
hy
in this stuff.
because Improv Olympic is a long form improv house, right? Everything is like long form. They do this thing called the Herald, where it's like in 3 parts, and there's a game that strings it all together. Second City is basically improvising sketch after sketch after sketch, right? It's something called a montage, and you come in and out of this line, and you improvise based on what's inspiring you from the show, the sketch before you. And I say sketch incorrectly, the scene before you.
Right.
But the great thing about Second City is it unknowingly teaches you how to write, because when you take classes, you're with the same group of people every level, right? In a perfect world, you all stay together, you develop this team, this shorthand with each other. And then you start to pluck scenes that you loved, that you did, and then you have to re-improvise them, which is like writing a sketch, right? You have to hit the beats, pull the fat, you keep what's good, you take out what's bad, and you workshop until it's a clean, easy sketch. Mm-hmm. And so Second City, to me, I love more. In California, they teach both ideologies at Second City, which bothers me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Like, so that's why I'm a little bit of a snob, but.
Well, if something's funny, and well done, it's funny and well done, I guess. But I follow. But that was a cool experience for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really loved it. I was very fortunate to be on some of the stages and be picked for like a core group of people. And then I moved to LA. And here, at the time, they only had like UCB and the Groundlings. And now the improv scene has really emerged, I think, very, very well. It's more prominent now, obviously, out here. So
you didn't even get into stand-up in Chicago at all?
No, I did. So this is so dumb. I went through a breakup with a guy that was in my improv class.
It's not the first person who's told the story about this. I had something breakup, and then I made a major life decision, career decision. Love the class that follows. I'm moving. I'm doing stand-up. Whatever.
It wasn't even that cool. I was going through a breakup, and I was doing improv. The guy I was dating claimed he was a stand-up comic. I had never seen him do stand-up, but that's what he wanted to do. He had done a couple shows, but I had never gone. He never wanted me to go. And I never thought, let me do stand-up. But then we were in the same, he was extremely verbally abusive. He was a bad person. But we were both kind of celebrated as great improvisers in the world of Second City where we lived, right in the pocket. And everyone thought he was such a good guy. So they assumed I was like a crazy girl, right? Like
after the breakup, you mean?
Yeah.
People who didn't know you well or something?
Yes. The people who knew us both, but like didn't know us, they were like, oh, well, if he's saying that she's this way, then I don't want to get in the middle. It sounds like you're this way because he seems so great.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
Yeah. Wow.
So that started happening. And then I got very depressed, if I'm being honest. And my friend Nick Vatterott, who's a hilarious comic who now writes on Bill Maher, he's just so fucking funny. We were in Second City together. He brought me we were doing a sketch fest thing together, a festival together. And he was going to an open mic, and I asked him to bring me because I had been writing because I was kind of sad. So I'd been writing all this stuff, and it was all awful. Like the jokes were awful. And he brought me to this Chicago open mic, and I bombed until I started saying stuff about the breakup, right? Until real shit came out of my mouth. And then it was like, oh, well, she's, like I got laughs. Cause I started talking about how like, do people think magic's real? Because I've been watching Practical Magic every day. Cause I can't imagine Sandra Bullock wouldn't pick a movie that she didn't stand behind. Like, I was like depressed. So I was like going through a breakup, and that stuff I noticed was being received, right? It's like, oh, she seems vulnerable, and it has something we've all done. Right. And then you're like, so I was like, oh, and then I never went back to it. I didn't go back to it. And then a lot of my other friends were doing stand-up, and there's like a stand-up scene I started getting introduced to, and I slowly started to do it.
Still in
Chicago.
Then I did it
in Chicago, and I did it for 2 years. I came up in an amazing class of comics, Kumail Nanjiani, Hannibal Buress.
Wow.
I mean, just an incredible.
These are all Chicago in the Chicago scene.
Yeah. So we came up together in Chicago. Some started before others. TJ Miller. I mean, so many people. I mean, just a really great crew of people. And, you know, I'm good friends with Matt Bronger and Kyle Kinane and all these other Chicago guys who came before me. And so it was a real community. And it really, I never saw my ex-boyfriend in this scene. He never was in the comedy scene.
He wasn't a stand-up.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
To be one, you have to do it.
Right. And I started doing it because it was actually quite healing. And I still did improv and sketch, but it was like, so then there was a moment where my ex-boyfriend and I were in a sketch show that was written by these two girls, Libby and I want to say Kristen. And they were lovely girls. They were friends. They wrote this sketch show. They wanted us to both be in it. And we both, you know, were professional enough to still be in it. And they still at this time think he's like this great dude. And then they all saw him yell at me outside. Like he couldn't control it. And he was like, called me like a piece of shit. And like,
wow.
He's not a good, like there was a lot of demons going on there. And he was just a totally abusive dude.
Right.
And he just like went off on me. And I was like, okay. And the corner of my eye, I saw Libby and the girl Kristen and like a couple other people see it happen. And I never felt more relieved.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I fucking tried to tell you, but I also didn't try to push it. So, you know, he like ran away or whatever. And
oh, wow.
They apologized to me and asked if I was okay. Like, I mean, he grabbed my arm. Like we had been stopped in the middle of Lincoln Park, which is like a part of Chicago, where he would be yelling at me and a person walking by would ask if I was okay.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And that's embarrassing for me because like I told you before, I try to be really tough acting. And yeah, so I moved on to stand up and made amazing friends who I'm still friends with here. We all moved to LA and it's some of the funniest people I'll ever know.
Is there anything that jumps out at you specifically about the Chicago scene that makes it different than other scenes besides like LA and New York, but like other cities, other than just the people that you happen to meet at the time and connect with? I mean, I'm guessing that's what makes the scene, but is there anything specific about Chicago audiences or doing comedy in Chicago?
Yeah, I think that, and I can't speak on New York too hard just because I've only been a visitor there to do stand-up and I love New York comedy and I know why people move there to get better. For LA comedy, it feels more political, and if you have a credit and if you're this and I do well here, I don't have a problem getting on shows. I feel good about that. You know, if I go for it, I get it. If I don't, then that's my thing. But Chicago is no bullshit, and it's not big enough for there to be full pockets of different cliques of comics, right? Like we all eventually do the same shows when I was there.
Right.
Like there's, you know, independent shows, there's the clubs, there's that, but there's like, it was just very alt comedy and it was no bullshit. You're funny, we laugh, even as comics. If you're not funny, you're going to know that. And so I really love that about Chicago. Even the audiences, it's like, you better do it or you're not, like the truth will be told. It's not, people aren't doing bringer shows, right? Where like in LA, you know, I can sell 15 tickets and have 15 coworkers from my restaurant job come and they'll think I'm great because I'm Renee and they don't want me to be bad.
Yeah.
It's just a different thing. It's a false thing.
I follow for sure.
Yeah. But if you're good, you're good. And that doesn't matter. Like I've done bringer shows. I just think like, you know, they're good for a reason and they're bad for many more. So
yeah, it's more, you get it. It's always better to have an organic audience that is there for comedy. I mean, isn't that the best kind of audience?
For sure. But even like bringer shows can be really long. Some of the comics maybe brought 20 people, but they're just okay. And maybe they shouldn't be doing stand-up, but they're trying, which you have to respect. But then people who come to see comedy are kind of getting the bad and the good, right? They're getting some shit and some cool ass
you're not gonna
shit too.
if you have seeing 6 to 10 comics on, you know, the show and everyone's doing 8-10 minutes or whatever it is, or 5 minutes, you're gonna like some more than others as an audience member, connect with some more
Yes.
than others, which makes sense. You said like it wasn't clicky in Chicago. I mean, I'm sure you see some of that in all different scenes, even in Chicago a little bit. But what is the biggest, like, I guess, drama element that you see like behind the scenes in the comedy world? I mean, I'm sure
Well,
a lot of people you come across, like you said, great friends and great people, and everyone, not backstabbing each other, and that you're directly connected with. But what are some of the
yeah.
things to watch out for in the comedy scene?
Well, I think first, let me just be clear. There are cliques in Chicago, but they are cliques that still run in the same universe, if that makes
Right,
sense. Like,
sub groups.
yes. Because, like, in LA, while a lot of comics intermingle into different shows, I mean, there's definitely comedy store comics, right? And they do a lot of road work, and that, like, they tend to have like a different thing. There's people who dabble in all of it, and I think I'm one of those people on a lot of occasions. And there's people who dabble into comedy store, the club, and alt, and whatever,
Yeah,
right?
it seems like more about just finding your place, kind of
Yeah,
finding where,
just
not being
but it
exclusionary or anything like that per se.
no, but finding where you feel home, where you feel at home, and that does tend to put you not exclusively, like you said, but it does tend to you learn a style within a different group, and you thrive in a different way, and you hone your skill in a different tone, and that's how everything is, right? But like, I don't think there's anything to look out for. I think that a lot of the time, what the story you're telling yourself is not what anyone else thinks.
I believe that. I've had that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're still going to focus on the
Yeah.
story we're telling ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen,
Or-
and I joke about it now, especially because of the quarantine, that like my FOMO, my middle child syndrome, really, like, I thought it could take a break when we all locked down because, nobody was doing anything. So I didn't have to feel left out, you know, in my own world, creating that I was left out. Meanwhile, no one was intentionally doing anything. Right. But
I kind of know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, but then everything started to kind of happen again, and people were having Zoom parties, and you were just like, oh, okay. No one asked me to do that. And so, like, your shit always finds a way to come out unless you deal with it. So
No
that
doubt.
is like, that was one thing that I really took in when it was happening, when I was just sitting in my own home alone going, oh, you don't have to go out and network. These people are doing this, like, maybe they don't like you. And then you have to go, what are you talking about? Like, there's a million things I do that I don't invite everybody. I don't book everybody. But if they were to come to me and go, can I do your show? I'd be like 100%. Like,
Right.
and you forget to do that for yourself because you're afraid it looks like you have to ask or something.
No, I know what you
It's
mean,
weird.
and I do the same thing and have the same kind
Yeah.
of thoughts in my own head. Tell me more about like the early years in LA, and like what were the trials and tribulations, challenges, successes. What I kind of jumps out at you from that part of your life.
So when I moved here, the only Chicago people that were here that first, no comic except for TJ Miller came up with me. Like, I did stand up with him in Chicago. So he came out because he was on a sitcom. I came out around the same time. Just accidentally, we came out together. But I was friends with a comic named Kyle Kinane and Matt Bronger and John Roy. I wouldn't say I was deep friends with them at the time because I didn't really know them and they didn't really know me, but they took me under their wing. They were just great. And I think, they did that because Chicago kind of they kind of really get each other's backs. It's Canadian comics do the same thing, I notice. Like, Chicago comics go to each other's shows and they watch each other do stand up because that is the culture in Chicago, right? You're in competition, but you're still kind of like, this is my shit. It's like being a Cubs fan. Everyone's like wrong or right, this is it. You know what I mean? So when I first moved here, the stand-up scene wasn't there weren't a lot of alt bar shows in LA proper. There was a good amount in the Valley, and those were distinctly different comics than the ones that like Kyle and Matt brought me to. Like I did Maria Bamford's show because of them. I did, they gave me certain connections in their world. I did the comedy store because I did a couple bringer shows, and my friend Tammy Joe saw me and was like, let me put you on regular shows, and she was also, she lived in Chicago. So it's like, for me, it was less saturated than it is now with comedians, which was a plus for me.
Sure.
Like I got to stand out a little bit easier, more easily. I don't know what English is, but yeah, I don't know which one's right. But then all the Chicago people that I did stand up with, they all started migrating here, except for like Nick Vaterack, Kumail Nanjiani, and Jared Logan. They all went to New York first. So some went to New York, some came here. And we developed our own, like our, support system kind of had its own scene. And, we would go to shows, and I remember Anthony Jeselnik always making fun of us because we were always like, people hated it because we were also, most of us were pretty funny. So
yeah, you were
like,
good.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, again, I see the same thing with the Canadian comics. I truly, and that's why I get along with them, I believe, unless they hate me, which I don't think so, but it's a similar vibe, right? Like, Chicago and Canada have a similar scene loyalty. And yeah, that's kind of what it was like when I first moved here. And then it started getting a lot more alt, and it was great.
It's probably necessary for most like up and coming comedians who are new or just starting out to have that supportive friend group who's also serious about it, but or have a little bit of talent and push each other, and it's competition, but also friendship. Like, is that really kind of what it's all about? Whether it's the Chicago scene, the Boston scene, or a scene that's broken down and by race, religion, whatever. Like anyone who has like a like-minded or similar kind of people with similar goals.
I think it's a lot like camp or going to war, right? Like you go away to camp with someone, right, as a kid, and you all have that same war story. You all have that same experience. So you're a comfort when you get to a new place, right? Like you seek out the people that have been through it with you because they're a comfort. They know you from your very worst to where you are now. And I think that is, and I think that's what it is. And like, everyone is loyal to, like, New York had a big migration here, and a lot of New York people who came here were Chicago people first. So they have a group that's New York, and they have us who are like the Chicago people. Like you don't realize your community as hard and as beautiful. And I mean this as the whole comedy scene. Then when someone passes away, someone needs something goes down, like you see why these people are in your life because, you all come together somehow.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. What about after that? What about like some other highlights from your professional career, from comedy, from stand-up, in even the recent years?
Yeah. So when I first moved here, I would say 6 months later, I got cast to be Victoria Beckham's fake personal comedic assistant on her NBC reality show. And that was really cool because I didn't understand reality was not what it is now. And it wasn't scripted, but it definitely wasn't totally natural.
Yeah. There's some direction.
Yeah. There was some direction, but I was also like nervous I was going to get fired all the time. And what is this? No one, And so that was really cool because I met all the Spice Girls, and I met, like I almost went to Tom Cruise's house and watched a movie. There was just like these things And of
Yeah.
course I connected with the hairdresser and the makeup girl. So like, who were also on the show, but um, that happened and that was really great. And because of that, I did a tour in London with other Chicago comics, which was really fun. And it was nice because I had a little heat because of the Victoria Beckham thing. And obviously she's British. So that was great. I was a new face on Just for Laughs, which a lot of Chicago comics were also in the same class with me, which was actually really, really cool. It was Kamel, Mike Bridenstine, Pete Holmes, who was now a
That's
New York guy.
that's an NBC show, Just for Less.
Just for Laughs is TBS.
TBS.
So it's in Montreal. And it's basically they showcase new faces to the industry. And they're
Yeah,
like,
that's
these are the
right.
new people. So that was really fun for me. I then got, I went on Chelsea Lately for a couple panel
That's awesome.
stints. I did late night. Like there was a lot of great things that happened. I got representation. Um, but then that kind of fizzled. Like you have to have a good team around you when you're not a person yet in the world of like, who is this person? You know what I'm saying? Like you need a person who knows how to parlay your one thing into a next thing. And I didn't
Yeah.
really have that team around me because I truly believe because I was mostly repped by men who maybe didn't get me. But their bosses saw something in me. So they were like my reps, you know?
Gotcha.
And it's scary to think you're not going to have like a manager or an agent, but the truth is it's like you're almost better off sometimes. I love my manager now, but I'm just saying like at the time you're afraid. You're afraid if you don't have something, you can't get something. And the truth is it's about working it right. And that's so different now because everything can be done online and everyone can see you in such a different way. And if you have
Right.
followers, you're apparently qualified. So
What didn't they get about you? Your representation or whatever
I
the
don't
case
think
may be.
I don't think they understood how to sell me.
Yeah.
Um, I think that as nice as they were, only one rep I had really got my comedy and really liked my comedy. And the other ones were more like they like dude comics. So while I don't know why that matters, it somehow just didn't register with them how to sell me.
Right.
And you know, interestingly enough, my first agent at Paradigm is now my manager 10 years later. And he's great and we get each other. We've always gotten each other. So it's nice that we're back together, 10 years later. But yeah, I just think it's like you don't bother to challenge it because you're afraid they'll drop you.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's a weird town. It's a weird business for sure.
Yeah, for sure. When I signed with Paradigm, when I was just like this dumb person who was going to JFL, they put I think I told you before, they put you in this like book, this roster book of people they represent. And they purposely put you in this beautifully bound book to tell you, oh, you're with us. Like you're also someone we'll be selling, like that kind of thing. And right after me was Allison Janney. And I was like, you rep Allison Janney? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, then you get me because I feel like I can do what she does at a very smaller scale, but like,
A
whatever.
style
She's
you
like,
a style you aspire to.
yes, like a
That's all.
career that I aspire to.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is that your dream goals, plans, or aspirations to have sort of to be that, like, I guess, character actress, or just do all kinds of roles and diverse roles and
Yeah,
longevity?
yeah. I think character acting is definitely a strong suit for me because I just connect with a shorter form idea. Um, that doesn't mean I can't be pushed to do something else, but like I was in a movie that came out around Thanksgiving last year in the theaters called Turkey Bowl, and I got to be, a character, girl from Oklahoma who is like, I think she's a real housewife. And like, I got to play this fun character in an ensemble cast. Um, and I loved it. Like that was like good for me. I was like, that's great. And I do love stand up and I want to just continue to do that. And I think in my own way, I've stopped myself from doing milestone things that I clearly could have done at this point, like do an album, even just an album, just a special, anything, because I've like put it in my head that I'm not ready, even though I am ready. So there's just like this, like go a fuck off and go for it that I feel like Allison Janney seems to portray, even though I know she is a real person who probably has her own shit. And so, yeah, I feel like goal wise, I would love to have character roles, still do stand up, and I write for television, which was a pure accident. And I think I'm very fortunate for that,
So it sounds like you 50-50 stand up and acting is really what you aspire towards. Is it like is it the album? Do you like touring with stand up? Having you want your own show? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to just have your own show. So, but that's why I moved to LA. Like I remember when I moved here from Chicago, everyone was like, why would you go there? Why wouldn't you go to New York? But like every Chicago comic. And then they saw TJ Miller get a show. I got cast on a thing for NBC. And for some reason, I'm not saying it was me, but I think they got in their head like, oh, maybe we should go to LA. Like the truth is everyone wants to be on television at some capacity. Right. So this is where you would go.
Right. Whether it's to promote your stand up or to accelerate a career in acting specifically, either way, you want to end up on television or I guess in the movies as well. Is there ever going to be a scene in a TV show or movie of yours with based on your ex yelling at you in that parking lot and being vindicated? Is that going to be a scene in your biopic or in the TV series that's sort of like, centered around your experiences?
Yeah, I have a show that I've put together. It's a cooking comedy show that I've been taking meetings to sell, called Recipes My Ex Left Me. And it's basically me telling stories of my exes and reinventing a food that reminds me of them. And that would be in the telling of who this person was. I haven't written him into anything yet, as far as a couple pilots I've written, because I just haven't written those type of shows. But yeah, eventually.
It would be you cooking and just telling stories to the camera, basically?
So I would invite a celebrity guest on. We would be cooking in a kitchen, but it'd be very like Pee-wee's Playhouse. So everything kind of has a quirkiness to it, an Amy Sedaris kind of vibe, with less quirky, because I'd never pretend that I'm an Amy Sedaris. So, but it's more like a talk show with a celebrity, and we talk about what this dish, like why this dish? Tell us about the ex. Tell us how it ended. Can we call him? Like stuff like that. We'll name the dish. We'll recreate it. And we'll change the memory connected to the dish, right? It's silly. It's meant to also be functional. Yeah. That's the show.
Cool. Well, I wish you much luck with that. Give me one dish that I should try making. You don't have to give me every aspect, every detail of the recipe, but it's something that...
Do you have any gluten allergies? Like, what's your deal?
No, I don't have gluten allergies.
Do you eat meat?
I eat meat.
Okay. I mean, the number one thing that I think most people are surprised they really like is this quinoa bake I make that tastes like lasagna, but it's with quinoa. And it's basically a cream-based homemade pasta sauce with quinoa. You bake it with a bunch of cheese, and you can put Italian sausage in it if you want. And you just bake a bunch of cheese on the top, and then you like throw it in the broiler for a couple minutes so it gets like bubbly and brown. You throw fresh tomatoes over it, and it's like a lasagna.
Yeah, it sounds like I was gonna say it sounds like it's something that could maybe make Chicago proud, but at the same time, please the difficult people to please in Los Angeles.
Yes, it's a combo. Exactly.
Yeah, you just tell them it's quinoa. Yeah. It's fine. You can eat it. Don't worry about the calories. It's fine. Just go for it.
Yeah, gluten-free, buddy. Gluten-free.
Sweet. Well, that sounds good. I was gonna ask what else you're working on, but it sounds like you may have told me. But I'll let you tell me anything else you're working on. I want to plug or promote how people can follow you. I'll kind of give you the floor. Anything else you want to talk about, and let
I
you
mean,
do your thing.
honestly, like I'm writing on a Jersey Shore special right now. I'm one of the main writers for Lip Sync Battle, which will be coming back soon. I write for Chrissy Teigen. Um, yeah, I don't have any. I'm going to Chicago for a month and a half starting in November. So if anyone listens to this and they're in Chicago and want to come to the Laugh Factory in a COVID safe way, I will be there quite a few dates and I'll post all that. And yeah, that's it. I'm writing on an HGTV late night show that we start shooting Friday. So
Nice.
that's it. I got nothing.
What are the biggest challenges with writing? Because it sounds like you have so many different writing jobs, odd jobs here and there. Like, what is the biggest challenge with the writing jobs?
I think the biggest challenge is with yourself, because I always want people to know that I'm a comic. So, because if I'm writing for a group of comedians or I'm writing for something, a lot of the production company or other people who maybe have just met me don't realize that I know a lot of the people that are going to be coming in. And, being a comic myself, I do shows with a lot of these people who are on television. So it's this battle of being like qualified, like trying to prove that you're more than just writing this stupid fucking script sometimes.
Right.
And, you're just like, oh, I'm a comic. Like, I also am in front of the camera like this. It's hard to not continuously remind people. And I'm sure they're like, we get it. You do stand up. And everyone says that. Like, everybody, even people who aren't real stand-ups, people think what they are is what they are. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's got an idea of what they do, well or not, So
Right.
it's just hard because you don't want to be annoying.
Right. I follow. And where can people find and follow you?
On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Nene Gooter, which is NENEGOOTER. And then that should link to my Facebook if you're so inclined.
Cool. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. It's been fun. Good stories. Chicago, Los Angeles, stand up, Dad, Alice and Janney.
We did it.
The whole thing. And I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. You got pots and pans behind you. You could do a dry run or something. Practice.
Or I could wash it. I make a wash that one. That one looks bad.
Mine looks worse.
Okay, good.
But I'm a dude, so I'm allowed.
That shouldn't matter. You're not allowed anymore.
Yeah, it's all good.
You've had nothing.
We're gonna go clean our pots and pans.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye. So there you have it. My conversation with Renee Gauthier. That was a lot of fun, and I thank Renee for her time and for keeping it real. I definitely look forward to seeing her live again. Hopefully soon. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.